Yes, we can hear you properly and we can see the
You
slides
see the
as well.
screen? Okay, yeah. Jazakallah khair. Inshallah. Bismillah. Wassalatu wassalamu ala ashrafil anbiya wa ala. Brothers and sisters listening on Zoom and on Facebook, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Jazakallah khair for joining me again. So this is part 2 of the well-being seminars. If you missed part 1, I'm sure it's available on 3 Memes Facebook to view. It's really important to take a look at that as well. So just like last time, this is just an overview. Please do consult with your GP before making any changes, especially important to check if any issues with current medical problems and medication. I'd love to give personal advice, but without your medical records, it's really difficult for me to do so. So remember, the overview is we looked at diet, so they're going to look at exercise, and soon we'll look at mental health. And it's really important to understand that they're all interlinked. If a human being wants to achieve well-being and good health, optimum health, it's really important to incorporate all 3 things: diet, exercise, and looking after your emotional health, your mental health. You have to approach all 3. If you try and do one or the other, or deal with them independently, most people don't reach optimum health because they're all interlinked, and it's really important to remember that. Remember, it's important to know why. We discussed this last time, so I'll zip through this really quickly because I'm conscious of time. The real problem is that a lot of us, over 50% of us are overweight or obese. 1/3 of our children are overweight. 1/3 of us are actually inactive, and over 50% of us don't eat our 5 fruit and veg a day that's recommended. Being overweight can cause strokes, heart disease, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, type 2 diabetes, and 13 different types of cancers, because there's a link between being overweight and something called chronic inflammation. It's not normal to carry that excess baggage, that excess amount of cholesterol and fat, and so your body is constantly fighting to deal with it. And that chronic inflammation, that chronic fight that the body has to do, it can lead and cause many diseases. Ultimately, it can cause a chronic state of tiredness, lethargy, and fatigue, which is what we see in our clinic over and over again throughout the year. 15% of us suffer from diabetes. There's a 6-fold increase in developing diabetes if you're Asian. The capital of diabetes is India. And you can read this for yourself, but the list will just go on and on and on. With regards to mental health, 1/3 of us report anxiety symptoms. Over 10% of men and 1/4 of our women suffer from common mental health illnesses like depression, anxiety, OCD, and so forth. Unfortunately, 1 in 10 of us suffer from suicidal thoughts. We ask Allah for safety and protection. Allah give these people who suffer from this shifa, inshallah. And there's a massive stigma attached to mental health. And generally, Asians, we suffer from chronic stress. So it's really important to try and optimize our health. So remember, disease, illness, being overweight, obesity, inflammation, the chronic inflammation that I talked about, it does affect your physical state. You don't feel good physically. It affects your mental state. So emotionally, mentally, you don't feel good. And ultimately, it affects your spiritual state. Your relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the deen can also be affected if you don't have optimum health. So they're all interlinked. And rethinking about this when I was planning this seminar, I think there's no better time than now to really improve our health as a community. I don't need to repeat statistics because they're not nice to hear and they can be scary. But our community, the ethnic minority community, has been hit really hard with COVID-19 in terms of severity and mortality. There's talk about there has to be some genetic element, and we'll wait and see what the science tells us as the months and years roll on. But this is the time to optimize your health. If you're in good shape, inshallah, by the tawfiq of Allah, if you're in good shape, inshallah, we'll be able to, you know, at least deal with COVID better than not being in shape. And you know, the biggest the people who struggle the most are people who have heart disease, are people who have high blood pressure, are people who have diabetes, and people who are overweight. So there is no better time than now in trying to address these issues, inshallah. So we're going to be solution focused because prevention is better than cure. So if you don't have an illness, inshallah, some of these strategies we talked about with diet and now with exercise will, inshallah, prevent you from developing anything nasty. And if you have an illness, inshallah, we'll demonstrate how you can improve your disease process, your illness, with exercise. It's about making small changes that are you know, with a long-term view, that are sustainable for you to carry out day in, day out, week in, week out, and result in massive impact. So this talk is not going to be about short-term quick fixes. It's about long-term exercise plans, lifelong. And I want you to internalize that phrase, that this is going to be lifelong change. For those of you that missed last time, we've got a massive queue of people who are very, very content with the doctor giving them medication to deal with a lot of their medical problems that they have, and that has its place. But we have very few people who are actually interested understanding core reasons for why disease and illness takes place, and how lifestyle changes can reverse disease process. We don't have many people coming to see us, but actually, if you make those lifestyle changes, despite having an illness, you'll feel much better than just relying on, you know, let's be frank, toxic pills, which does have its place, but they do come with side effects, and a lot of patients can have this false sense of security that if I take my medication, I'll be okay. But actually you won't. The medication will eventually, you know, not stop working, but it won't take its effect as well as it should. And you may find yourself, or patients may find themselves on multiple medications trying to control things, when if they made lifestyle changes, things might not have been as worse. And people who don't have illness, if you have a good lifestyle, you won't be needing to see the doctor anyway. Remember, it's possible. Anything's possible. Just get rid of the I am in the word impossible, and it's possible to change. On the topic of exercise, where before lockdown, as a practice, we became a park run practice, and one of the doctors asked me to come along and go for a run. And I said to her, I can't run. In these words, I can't run. So she said, if somebody had a cardiac arrest outside our practice in the middle of the street, what would you do? I said, I'd run and start CPR. So she said, you can run, but your mind block is saying that you can't run. So it's really important to undo this statement of I can't do it, or it's impossible. It is possible. It's in the word impossible. Just get rid of the two letters I and M. Change is a process, is not an event. So you're not gonna, you know, after this talk, you know, if you go to the do a workout in your home, because you know the gyms are closed because of lockdown, or even after lockdown, if you go to the gym, if you just go for 1 hour and smash it, and you come home, you look in the mirror and you'll see nothing, you know, and then you go again and do a workout, you come back, you look in the mirror, you won't see any changes, and you may give up. So what I'm trying to say is that it's a process, it's not an event, it's not a magical moment that you're going to have and suddenly you're going to be in optimum fitness. It's something that you have to stick with and do over and over and over again regularly, consistently, and you'll see changes, inshallah. So let's start with a question. And for those that are listening and watching, are you active or inactive? This is the first question, and I mean proper activity, not the the busy Asian running around with chores syndrome, where when you ask somebody, do you keep active, and they say, oh, I do a lot of work, the quote unquote Asian chores. I don't mean that. Ask yourself, am I physically active or inactive? If you look at England, north of England is significantly less active than the south, and if you look at it, it's only this is just questioning people if they do 30 minutes of moderate activity per week, okay, per week. So there's a north-south divide, and there's two reasons why they public health suspect, and one of them is income. So significantly, we earn less than the South. People may argue it's more expensive living in the South. That's fine, but with people who earn less, they're not as privileged as people who earn more. So maybe can't afford gym equipment for their house, or have flexibility with their work, or afford gym membership, and so forth. And the second reason is the weather. It's more grey and rainy up here than down south. So looking at England now, 1 in 4 women and 1 in 5 men are classed as physically inactive. So this is the question: are you active and inactive? And inactivity is doing less than 30 minutes of moderate physical activity per week. That is it. So that's not a lot of time doing activity. 30 minutes per week. Only 34% of men and 24% of women do any form of muscle strengthening exercises at least twice a week. And men are more likely than women on average, to spend more than 6 hours on average of sitting on both weekdays and weekends. So, why do you think that is? One reason is because men are accustomed to watching endless, amounts of sports on the screen, especially on the weekend. But also men tend to be more addicted to devices in terms of playing games on their phones. You got 30, 40-year-olds tragically, spending their time playing games that 10, 11, 12-year-olds play. It's a tragedy. So what happens is to our body is that we and it's really important to understand the cycle of inactivity. We're not active, okay? So what happens to our body is that our muscles become weaker. Weak muscles use oxygen less efficiently. In other words, when you try and do activity, you just can't get the oxygen around as well as you want to. And then we feel breathless, our muscles hurt, and then psychologically we feel fearful of doing any form of activity that makes us breathless because it doesn't feel nice. So what do? We then choose, because it is a choice, we choose to avoid those activities which make us breathless or make our muscles hurt, and then we do less activity. And the cycle goes on and on and on. Now, that's one reason. The second reason why we're not active, and I've alluded to it already, is that is screen time, and we need to have what's called a paradigm shift. Okay, so if your children, because we've got to do this as families, as a community, okay, if your children don't see you as being physically active, it will have a knock-on effect to them. They won't be active. It's as simple as that. They have imitation behavior. And what's really important is to actually start to unplug from these devices, from iPads, phones, screens, TV, you name it. It's important to unplug because they eat your time. And get out and enjoy the world, obviously within the respects of social distancing and what's allowed and what's not allowed given the current climate we're in. And to make it a regular family thing, and remembering that it's okay if it rains, we can still go out and do some form of activity, even if it's walking, as a routine, as a family. And it has to be done as a family for it to work for yourself and your children and their children and their children. It's important to inculcate this concept within them. And if we look at how much time these screens do take away from us, these are just some statistics, and you might find them funny, you might resonate with them, but in the UK, an adult on average spends 8 hours and 41 minutes a day on a screen, and technically that's more time than they're asleep. This is England, so children spend 6.5 hours a day on screens. Okay, a day on screens. Okay, the average social media user, so Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, etc., they log in 2 hours a day on social media alone. Okay, just looking at their social media, it's 2 hours a day, and we tend to check our smartphones every 12 minutes. Okay, we tap, swipe, click our devices 2,617 times each day. 70% of UK children say their parents spend far too much time on their mobile devices at home. 70% of children, that's our children. UK adults spend 25 hours a week online. That's a day gone online, a day completely gone, a week, okay? In the past 10 minutes, 34% of people in the UK would have checked Facebook, okay? 2 in 5 adults, that's 40%, look at their phone within 5 minutes of waking up, okay? 5 minutes within waking up. They go and check their phones, their email, their social media, whatever. They go and check it. And that's actually the litmus test. If you want to see if you're addicted to this device, just have a look. When you wake up in the morning, what's the first thing you do? Do you say, Alhamdulillahi alladhi ahyana ba'da ma amatana wa ilayhi nushur, and engage with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Does your tongue start with the durud of the Prophet ﷺ, or do you reach for your phone and check what's going on in your in your life? This is the litmus test. And one tip that I learned from a memory expert is he said, if you really want to improve your brain function, ignore your phone first hour of the day and switch it off last hour of the night. And the mashallah 3 Mean Foundation, they'll know when we had our meeting that I was giving talks in the massages before lockdown. When I advised some of the brothers and sisters to do this, a brother contacted me. This was before lockdown, and he said, Jazakallah khairan, that 1 hour rule you gave me, mashallah, I started waking up for Fajr earlier than usual, and for a long time I started praying in the masjid because I was ignoring my phone. So inshallah you'll see benefit, and I could go on, but the statistics just get more depressing. But the point I'm trying to make is that one of the biggest reasons why we don't exercise is because we're glued to these things. And if we unplug, your children will unplug, because let's be real, it erodes their fitrah, their natural inclination to haqq, truth. It gets eroded. So if you unplug, they'll unplug, and really allow them to connect with the world outside. And if you've noticed, since lockdown, alhamdulillah, the silver lining in the great cloud, we've been able to connect with the world a bit more, and it does bring a different type of happiness to you, looking at the beautiful world that Allah's made. Okay, so again, let's keep going on with why. Why is exercise so important? So you can read some of the statistics on the slide that if you do regular physical activity, it simply reduces your risk of mortality, death, by 30%. Okay, your risk of heart disease drops by up to 35%. Diabetes drops by 40%, colon cancer by 30%, breast cancer by 20%, depression, yes, it does help mental health, and I'll come to that. It reduces your risk of it by 30%. Hip fractures, because when you exercise, your bones become stronger, by up to 70%, and even dementia by up to 30%. Okay, so tons of benefit, and this has all been trialed and tested by the medical world. So let's look at a few areas that impact our community, a lot. So first is diabetes. So what happens if you exercise in someone who has diabetes, or even if you don't have diabetes? This is what happens. It simply improves your response to insulin. So when you eat something, your sugar levels go up by virtue of what you've eaten. And then your body, your pancreas, it releases a hormone called insulin, which essentially helps to break down and metabolize and absorb the glucose, the sugar in your body. That's its basic function. Okay, and in diabetes, this process doesn't work as well. In type 2 diabetes, it doesn't work as well. In type 1, the pancreas doesn't produce enough of it. So this is more. It'll have its benefits for both type of diabetes, but especially for type 2 diabetes. So what happens is when you exercise, your insulin just simply works better, and your blood sugar levels drop, okay, more efficiently. When that happens, your blood pressure drops and your cholesterol level drop as a domino effect. It also helps control weight because your sugars are better controlled. And ultimately, it reduces your risk of developing diabetic complications such as heart disease, blood pressure, strokes, eye problems, kidney problems, and nerve problems. It's a win-win situation. So if I was to say to anybody listening, I have a pill and it's free, you don't pay anything, there's no side effects, at all, and it does all of these wonderful things for your blood glucose level, blood glucose control, would you take it? And everybody would say yes. And guess what? This is free, and it has no side effects, and anyone can do it. Let's look at heart disease. Okay, your heart is a muscle. Okay, you use it or lose it. Okay, if you if your heart isn't accustomed to an exercise, it simply just, you know, it becomes weaker. So doing it, when you do exercise, it strengthens your heart muscle. It also helps to reduce fat and cholesterol, because all that blood is being pumped and pushed through those arteries, knocking those horrible plaques off. And it clears arteries from fat. Okay, so it helps improve the metabolism, and it also clears the arteries, proven to reduce blood pressure significantly. And ultimately, when you reduce your blood pressure and you get rid of all that cholesterol that's clogging arteries and stuck in your liver, what happens is your chances of stroke and heart attack reduces. Again, if this was a pill, would you take this? Of course you will, because it's free, there's no side effects. But guess what? You can, and you can start at any time. Some people say, well, I can't because of my arthritis, Dr. Sab. So I say to a lot of these people, I say, really, are you locked in the pain cycle? So what we talked about before, it's uncomfortable for me to exercise, so I'm not going to exercise because it's more convenient for me. There was a really good study done in 2017 in the States looking at chronic pain. So people with arthritis or chronic back pain or sciatica or fibromyalgia, you know, these common illnesses where they experience chronic pain. And what was really interesting in this study was that they concluded that in the short term, so if you need it, you know, if you've fractured you've fallen, you've got a fracture, or, you know, you've injured yourself and you need painkillers, it works really, most painkillers work really well in the acute phase when you need it. It will really help with your pain control. But what they found was in terms of long term, it actually wears off after 3 months in terms of giving you decent pain relief. Okay, and then after 3 months, most painkillers, they only give you about 30% of pain relief, and the rest is either placebo, or that, you know, you actually think, you know, psychologically that it's giving you benefit, or it's actually not giving you any benefit at all. So only 30%, that's not a lot. And what they found was that there's more benefit in controlling pain and improving the quality of your life by doing things such as acupuncture, hydrotherapy, physiotherapy, psychological therapy, yoga, relaxation technique. And the study was amazing in terms of long-term benefits in controlling pain and improving your quality of life. It wasn't the medication that did that. And one of them was actually physical activity, that it helps to reduce pain, helps to improve function, and give you a better quality of life, because that's what we're looking at. But the key is to break that cycle. On the topic of arthritis, you know, for those that do suffer, or if you know somebody that suffers, if you take a look at these two websites, versusarthritis.org and localphysio.co.uk, I don't have any affiliation with these organizations or shares, so I'm not trying to promote their business, but they have some really good exercises for patients people who suffer from arthritis. Take a look, it's really handy, really help you improve your pain, function, and quality of life. So what about mental health? People often say this cannot help my mental health, doc. And I say, well, actually, you know, it's proven to improve your mood, reduce stress levels, lift your self-esteem, and ultimately, if you don't have depression and suffer from depression and anxiety, it does lower the risk. And you know, I'll mention it on that note. I have a patient that I remember when I do these talks. Allah save us from this sort of a scenario, but he went through an ugly divorce in his 50s, and then went from, you know, a family to and a beautiful home to a small one-bedroom flat looking at four walls. Lost his job because he had a mental breakdown, and he was suicidal as well. And after many consultations and lots of discussions with him, finally he agreed to take up running. And he needed medication because he was on the severe spectrum, but he took up running, and within no time he was running at least 8 to 10 k 3 times a week. So a real pro. He went from nothing to a pro within no time. And when he sees me, he often remarks and says, Dr. Goga, thank you so much for convincing me to run, because if I didn't run, I'd be dead. He'd use those words. He said, it just makes me feel so good, and I look forward to it every time I do it. And after I do it, I feel amazing. So it does, it's proven. That's just one example. I could give you countless. In terms of the effects on the brain, it's proven to improve your cognitive function. So your thinking is quicker, better, more efficient. Improves your memory, simply does. Okay, improves your concentration span and attention span. Helps with your sleep. You sleep better if you exercise regularly. It actually promotes brain cell repair, healing if there's any brain lesions, and it boosts your decision-making skills. No brainer. Again, if this was a pill, would you take it? Of course you would, because there's no side effects and it's free. But guess what? You can start whenever you want. You can start today. Okay, so I've convinced you that exercise is good. So the next question is, okay, what do I do then? Okay, first, what's really important is to break the brain freeze that we talked about. Okay, break that lock. What I said to my colleague, I can't run. Okay, really important to break it. When you start doing activity, your muscles, it'll take time, but you've got to keep going with it. Okay, it will be painful, it'll be difficult the first week or so that you do it, but you won't look back after that. Your muscles will become stronger because they're getting used to moving now, and moving with vigor. Okay, your muscles will use oxygen more efficiently. In fact, what happens is that when you start doing exercise, Allah's created the human body, is that when you start doing exercise, especially if you start doing weights, for example, your body is able to generate new blood vessels so that more blood can go to your muscles. Amazing how Allah's made the body. So your muscles use oxygen more efficiently, you're less breathless, and obviously then it becomes easier for you to do exercise. You feel good. Not only do you feel good about the fact that, after you do exercise, you feel good about yourself, your self-worth increases, that you feel good that you could do it. And so then you become more motivated to continue being active. And the more you do it, the cycle just continues, and like my patient, you go from nothing to being a pro in no time. Second thing, okay, ditch your phone. No one's going to do that. I know no one's going to do that, but just try and limit your time on that device or screen, at home, whatever screen that is. And honest, your life will be so, and Dr. Tariq knows, I'm sure, I give him a hard time with his texts and photos that he tries to send. I don't have a smartphone, and I tell you, I've never had one. And to be honest, after COVID and what social media's, what's come out, I really don't want to get one ever. But one day I may have to, because these phones aren't going to last forever. But your life will be a lot calmer. Really, you'll have your own brain. You'll be able to breathe because no one else is breathing down your WhatsApp group, and you'll have loads of time to do meaningful things, tons of time. And don't worry, I don't have one, and you can still keep in touch with the world. It's not a problem. And if you can't do that, then because they are really good tools. They're really good devices to have, especially if you have organizations to run or a business to run and so forth. But why don't you have two? One for personal use and one specifically for that, so you can develop some more control. Or if you can't do that, then at least set some rules where, at this time of day, I'm not going to go on my phone. Or, for example, before I engage with Salah, half an hour before, I'm not going to touch my phone so I'm not distracted. It's things like that. Just try and have control. That's what I'm trying to say. So what do I do? So these are the recommendations from public health, which seems to be accepted across the medical world in this country, alhamdulillah. So between the age of 19 and 64, you should aim for 150 minutes of moderate intensity activity in bouts of 10 minutes or more each week. So you can split that up however you want, but you aim for about 150. Now, what I don't want you to do is go for 150, straight away, because if you're not accustomed to exercising, you'll struggle. Okay, so you might want to start with, say, for example, 5 minutes in the morning, 5 minutes in the evening. And we'll talk about what to do in a sec. But in terms of how much time, you could start off with, I'm going to commit, every day, 5 minutes in the morning, 5 minutes in the evening for a week or two. Then I'm going to increase it to 10 minutes twice a day for a week or two, and slowly build up so that it accumulates to 150 eventually over the week. Or you could do 75 minutes of vigorous activity across the week, or a mixture of moderate and vigorous. You can flex, but they're the sort of times you want to aim for. And twice a week, you want to do muscle strengthening activity, such as weights, for example, yoga, or even, look, yeah, one of the, since COVID, we've been, hardly using our cars. A lot of people have been, walking and cycling. One good exercise is actually going shopping, walking, and carrying your bags home. And importantly, minimize the amount of time that you're sat down. Just really limit it. And if you find that you've been sat down for 45 minutes, an hour, get up, do some squats, or jog on the spot, or just walk around the house. It's just important to spend little time sat down, especially if you're at work, for example. When you're working, especially like a lot of people working from home, a lot of people are working in isolation in their offices. It's potentially you can just be glued to your chair for 4 or 5 hours. Move around every 45, 60 minutes. Okay, so now I know how much I need to do. What do I do? So this is what counts. Walking counts, but brisk walking. So really put some effort into it. Gardening is really good for your soul. What do we do as Asians? We get a beautiful garden and we just flag it. It's it's a bad habit that we've got. But gardening is really good. You can connect with Allah when you garden. When you look at the beauty of how Allah's created different plants in different colors, using the same type of seed. When you look at it, they all look the same. Hiking, again within the respects of the COVID rules. Martial arts, I understand Martial Art Meme Foundation already offer this. Is excellent. So martial arts is actually sunnah. Cycling, really taken off since COVID, and I've started cycling to work again. It's great. It's really good. Football, racket sports, swimming when the gym's open again. But this is what counts as moderate physical activity, and you want to have a mixture. You can either commit to one if you want, but try and have a mixture to bring variety in your life. So let me give you a few ideas. Obviously, after COVID, because the gyms are closed, after COVID, commit to a gym. And you may not know, but your GP can actually refer you. And I'll come to that in a sec. But obviously we're in lockdown, and if you're gym shy, and I understand why, because of Baroda and things like that, purchase equipment for your home and really commit. So a running machine, or exercise bike, or a cross trainer, or a rowing machine, or anything. But you're going to commit that I'm going to build myself up slowly, 5 minutes in the morning, 5 minutes in the evening, and then for a couple of weeks, and then 10 minutes in the morning, 10 minutes in the evening, and eventually I'm going to keep going until I get that 150 minute over the week, or 75 vigorous activity in the week. Or obviously after lockdown, you could join a walking group. A lot of GP practices have one. If they don't have one after lockdown, set one up. Really good initiatives that are going on. So you could set up walking groups after lockdown, set up a running club. You could set up a cycle club, or even a swim club, obviously after lockdown, but or regular sporting activities. There's lots that you can do to encourage activity, because people are more likely to engage when they're in groups than when alone. And so if you can set something up after COVID settles, it would be excellent. It'd be amazing. There are walking groups, and there's actual funding for training for this, which maybe get in touch with me after the coronavirus settles and we go back to some form of normality. But if you check out this website, there's also paths that you can take a look at if you want to make a start on walking, say with families. Trafford gyms actually offer a reduced pass rate for people who are unemployed or low income, full-time carers, over 65s, full-time student, or if they have any disability. Obviously after lockdown, but it's about taking advantage of what's out there. So I mentioned the GP can refer you. So it's on hold now because of COVID, but after post-COVID, it should start kicking up again. So what GPs can do in the whole of Trafford is they can refer anyone for an 8-week access to any Trafford gym for £20 as a flat fee. And you have access to initially a one-to-one trainer, and then you're entitled to group or solo activities. After the 8 weeks, there's no obligation to carry on. You can call it a day, or you can carry on with standard membership rates. It's well worth taking up before the funding's pulled after, obviously after coronavirus. The point I'm trying to make is that it's really important to do something. Okay, doing nothing is not an option. One of my friends, there used to be a gym opposite his house, and I said to him once, I said, oh, you've got a gym opposite your house, amazing. And he said, yeah, I've for the past 3-4 months I've been looking at going there, and I just can't I can't go. I said, why? He said, I get so tired just by looking at the gym, as it exhausts me, and therefore I can't make, making an excuse. So that's not the point. Is that you've got to do something. Okay, you can make as many excuses as you want, but it's not going to buy it's not going to buy with me. One of the biggest excuses we make, including myself, is I don't have time. Okay, so as you're listening, what do you make of that? I don't have time. We all say it, right? What I say to myself, and what I'm going to say to you, is we do have time. We have no barakah in our time. That's the problem. We have bags of time, and it's important to reflect. Since lockdown, how many more hours of the day have we got? And one of my patients, she's not Muslim, one of my patients earlier this week, she was saying, man, I used to waste so much time just going window shopping, waste so much time. And we don't have any barakah in our time because we do things that are just wasteful. I'm not sure if I mentioned this last time, but with lockdown, there seems to be a bit more time in the day than usual. It's important to really connect with, take advantage and connect with Allah and the way of the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam in these times. One of the books that you want to get hold of is the Shama'il of Imam Tirmidhi, rahmatullahi alayh. He's one of the students of Imam Bukhari, rahmatullah alayhi. Imam Bukhari rahmatullah used to say that I benefited more from you as a student than you did from me as a teacher. That's how high he held him in esteem, rahmatullah alayhi. So he wrote a Sahih, and the last chapter is the description of the Prophet ﷺ. Absolutely essential book for every Muslim to have and to read as a family, so your children are aware. It talks about the Prophet ﷺ, what he looked like, how he walked, how he talked, how he read the Quran, how he slept, how he ate, what he ate, how he dressed. Literally A to Z of the Prophet ﷺ. Absolutely beautiful book that needs to be read over and over again. So on the section on the character of the Prophet ﷺ, this is where I'm going with this in terms of time. On the section on the character of the Prophet ﷺ, the grandchildren of the Prophet ﷺ, Hassan and Hussein, radiallahu anhuma, they asked Hind ibn Abi Hala, who was a relative, as-Sahabi radiallahu anh, about the Prophet ﷺ and how he was with his friends, with the Sahaba, with the companions. And it's a beautiful hadith. Starts with saying, Da'iman bil bishr, sahl al-khuluq, layyin al-janib. That he was always with a smile, soft in disposition, easygoing. And then he talks about the character of the Prophet ﷺ, and then he gets to the point I'm trying to make now. One of the things that he says is that the Prophet ﷺ, وَتَرَكَ مِن نَفْسِهِ ثَلَاث. 3 things he just did not do. 3 things he didn't do. Al-jidal, he never argued, didn't argue or debate with people. Al-ikthar, he was not obsessed or had no concern whatsoever in stuff, just having lots of things. He was not interested in a bigger house, an extension, more horses, because that was the version of cars at that time, clothes, furniture. He just had no interest whatsoever. Absolute zahid, detached from this world. وَمَا لَا يَعْنِي was the 3rd thing. He did not involve himself in things that did not concern him. And our ulama, they say that those who are involved in these 3 things, argumentation or debating, wanting to just increase their empire or just have lots of stuff in their life, the things that I talked about, dunya basically, or those who are involved with things that don't concern them, in other words, they're not minding their own business. If you're involved in these 3 things, you lose blessings of time. You just find that you're just wasting your time. إِنَّ اللَّهَ حَرَّمَ عَلَيْكُمْ عُقُوقُ الْأُمَّهَاتِ وَوَأْدَ الْبَنَاتِ وَمَنْعَ وَهَاتِ. That Allah has made it impermissible for you to disobey your mothers, to bury your daughters alive, the pre-Islamic Jahiliyyah common practice, and to withhold when you're supposed to give, or demand when nothing is, it's not your right to have such and such a thing. Then what did the Prophet ﷺ say? Kariha lakum, Allah detests for you. Qeel wa qal, gossiping. Did you hear about this? Did you hear about, hey, check this out? Hey, did you hear about this? Did you hear about that? Wa kathratu su'al, asking lots of questions. Wa ida'atul mal, and trying to amass lots of wealth. And so what one thing embroils you in all these three things? You probably guessed: the device, the smartphone. So, you know, ask yourself, you know, do I get involved with these three things to lose barakah in my time? So we do have time. But if you still tell me you don't have time because you're super busy or super lazy or both, take a look at HIIT exercises. Okay, but make sure you consult your GP first. I mean, go easy on the medical profession, to see how they are in terms of workload, to take their time. But consult your GP before you do it, because this is, you know, you have to build yourself up doing this. You can't just go and smash yourself at these HIIT exercises. You have to build yourself up. A good starting point would be something called a 7-minute scientific workout. You can YouTube this or Google it, take a look at it, and start slow. Okay, so it's a bunch of exercise. It's a small set of exercise for 30 seconds and then 10-second break. 30 seconds on, 10, that's what HIIT exercise is. High intensity interval training. So you do about 30 seconds on, 10 seconds off. Or some people, they do some videos, they've got 30 seconds on, 30 seconds off, and so forth. But take a look. It's really they're really good, actually. But make sure you look into it before you try and attempt it. Make sure you know your knees okay, your back's okay, etc. Ideally, get a trainer to show you, but a bit limited with COVID. But if you take a look at some of the basic low-grade HIIT exercises and start slow, inshallah, you should be okay. Tim Anderson has this concept called original strength. Really interesting concept. Have a look at it. Talks about power exercises, which are really good for your core muscles and also for aerobic exercise. Take a look. He has his own website and videos. They're a bit out of this world, strange exercises, but you know, I testify to it when I was informed about this. They're really good exercises. For your elderly, again, just when we finish with the seminar, you can maybe take a look at these websites. The first one is British Heart Foundation. Second one is Arthritis Action. If you're struggling with mobility or if you have arthritis, there's nothing stopping you doing chair-based exercises. Lots of resources online, but you want to aim to do that. Remember, trying to get your hours in, as we discussed. Take a look at Spark for anybody who's interested in the science behind exercise. It's a really in-depth discussion around the benefits of exercise and how it improves the performance of your brain. Really good read, really inspiring. I recommended this to a lot of my patients. Worth reading. Okay, so we've done aerobic exercise. What about muscle strength? What do? Make roti? You could get away with that, but we should do proper stuff. Okay, again, you know, after COVID, trying, you know, get a trainer to show you how to do these things. But if you can't, then, you know, very carefully follow tutorials online. So try kettlebell exercises at home. Okay, there's lots of workouts out there that you can follow, but start, you know, low grade and then build yourself up slowly. Really important to, if you ask around, if you know anybody who knows how to use it, to show you how to use it, obviously maintaining social distancing, to show you how to use it. But kettlebell exercises are good power, you know, exercises that have really good maximum effect with in the shortest amount of time if you're busy with life. MashaAllah, 3Meme already onto this with their martial arts. It's really good that you're doing this, but there's lots of initiatives around the country. And I've been horse riding in Sale. Really good experience with the kids, obviously after lockdown. So Sunnah Sports, Prophet ﷺ, you know, recommended horse riding, martial arts, swimming, and archery was done commonly with the Sahaba. I'm not sure if there's any swimming male only or female only in Sale, but maybe after lockdown, something to look at for the community to try and set something up, because swimming is a really, really good sport and really good for exercise. I have to mention this, you know, I always reluctantly put this in my seminars, but it's really important that husband and wife work as a team. Okay, so remember, women, they're the first madrasa of our children, first school for our children, and it's really important for our women to function optimally, and you know, it's really important to allow them to free up their time to look after themselves. Really important, okay? Because life shouldn't be about just cooking and cleaning, and that should not define a woman, okay? So really important, men who are listening, free up some time for your wife, or your mother or your sister, if they live with you, free time up for them so that they can break away and do exercise and look after themselves. And it works both ways. So our women folk, allow your men folk to have some safe time, safe space, time, protected, dedicated time to do some exercise. And one of the shiuch, he said to us, he said, don't compete with each other. Life's not a competition between husband and wife. You're supposed to complete each other, not demand, from each other. Help each other, complete each other. So maybe set up a rota. Okay, this is your time, day and time in the week for you to do your stuff. This is my time, and you'll find that it'll work better for you if you work as a team. Post-birth, really important for women to follow the physio exercises given by the GPs or midwives to strengthen your pelvic floor muscles, because they do go under a lot of strain after birth. Okay, really important. And you can do this in the comfort of your own home. You don't even have to go anywhere. And once your body's recovered, really important to keep up with these pelvic floor exercises, okay, or you'll struggle waist down with strength. Obviously after COVID, you can do it in your home when it's right now, but after COVID, join female only classes like Pilates, really good for core muscle strength, Aquafit, Tai Chi, loads of stuff out there. But mashallah, 3Mimo ahead of the game, such a young organization, and they're so advanced in what they're doing. I can't see it being a hard job setting something up for sisters in Sale, and mashallah, take the lead for Trafford. Why not? So in summary, change is possible. Remember that it's never impossible. Okay, it just takes that first step, and then another, and then another, and then another, and you keep going, and you'll find you'll be able to make change. Understanding why is more important, and there's no better time than now. Really important for us to get in good shape, so that inshallah, I hope no one listening, and Allah end this pandemic. But if we are destined to catch the virus, that we get it in the mildest of forms, and Allah gives us strength to fight this off. But remember, Allah's given us asbab, and we take the asbab. So it's important to really improve our health and fitness. Consistency is the key. This will not bring you any benefit if you do it for a week or two or even a month. You won't see changes until 3 months. You will not see changes until 3 months, but it's really important to keep going, and have a lifelong plan to carry on, lifelong. For those of you who missed last seminar, with weight loss specifically, a lot of people exercise because of weight loss. Weight loss is about 70-75% diet, and the rest is exercise. So exercise does have a role in weight loss, but more importantly, it strengthens your heart, your lungs, your muscles, improves brain function, improves your well-being. And remember, nothing occurs without tawfiq, divine providence, enabling grace from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So remember, always constantly make it a regular dua, at least once a day, that you ask Allah for afiyah. The Prophet ﷺ said the two greatest things a human being can ask Allah for is afiyah, well-being, and yaqeen, certainty in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So ask Allah every day to give you afiyah and salama and yaqeen. And don't forget me in your dua as well. Remember, healthy self equals, you heal thyself. When you're healthy, your body starts healing. And we've seen it in our practice. And other doctors will tell you, people who make lifestyle changes with their diet, exercise, and improve their mental health, they actually reverse disease. It's amazing. I gave examples last time about a diabetic patient who reversed his diabetes. I'm not sure if I mentioned a lady who had heart failure, and we talked about diet and exercise, and mashallah, she reversed her heart failure. It was amazing. I had a patient recently who was diagnosed with fibromyalgia, for years, and then I took on her case, and we had some hard conversations about diet, exercise, and optimizing her emotional regulation. And the last time I saw her was recently. She said, just before lockdown, she said, I did what you said, and I hadn't seen her for a long time. And she said, I did what you told me to do, and I'm off all my medication, I've stopped counseling, I feel great. And so it is possible to reverse disease. You heal thyself. Finally, ni'matan from the Prophet ﷺ, ni'matan maqboolun fihima kathirun min an-nas as-sihhatu wal-faragh. Two blessings that most people, they just don't give any attention to. They're very neglectful, wasteful of it, and that's health and free time. So inshallah, I hope that we can, have this pinned on our notice board that I need to look after my health and not waste time. Give my time to things that are meaningful and more important, that will benefit me in this world and in the akhirah. Inshallah. Jazakallah khair for listening. We'll stop there, inshallah. Any questions?
There is a question from a sister in the chat window, Sister Aisha. She is asked, what is your opinion on intermittent fasting alongside a daily working out lifestyle?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So I'm not sure if Sister managed to catch the first one, and I understand it's on your Facebook page. But one thing I talked about last time was the benefits of fasting. So there's a it's called 5-2 diet. In fact, the doctor who wrote this, who came up with this, he also wrote the diabetic 8-week diabetic diet, blood sugar diet, and so the benefits of it are just amazing. So I'm really pro intermittent fasting, but what I did say is that we have sunnah fasts, Monday, Thursday, and Ayyam al-Bid, 13th, 14th, and 15th, which we're in right now. So you want to try and, because you can get rewarded for this, okay, by fasting on the sunnah days as well. So intermittent fasting is good, but doing workout, like, I don't know about you, but fasting on this time of year, it's really difficult for me to do a workout on if I'm fasting, because the days are so long. If it's within reason, where the days aren't too long and your body's capable, and you're capable of doing a workout, yeah, it's fine. But you just have to listen to your body and not put too much strain on your body at the same time. So yeah, intermittent fasting is good, depending on the length of the day, and if you're fasting, like the way Muslims fast, because the 5-2 diet has a different way of fasting, and you take a look at it. But depending on the length of the day, if the day isn't too long after the fast, yeah, it should be fine. But if the days are long, or if you're feeling weak, I wouldn't recommend doing a workout on the day that you're fasting if the days are long. You have shorter days here in Jeddah. Okay, that's fine. So if fasting is easy for you there, and your body is capable, then do it. But I wouldn't recommend that you go over the number of minutes that I talked about in the message here, in the talk here. So there's, because one of the things that's coming, take a look at it online if you want. There's this thing about exercise addiction. People get addicted to exercise because of the benefits that come with it, but you cannot overdo it, because your body does need rest at the same time. So sometimes if you haven't had that adequate rest, it does put a lot of strain on your body. So just we're a ummatun wasata, we're a balanced ummah. So as long as you've got a balance and it works for your body, alhamdulillah, no problem. So there's another one. What would be more beneficial? What would be of more benefit, walking or buy equipment to do exercise? Yeah, so it's an arbitrary number. There's no evidence behind it, but it's commonly used in the medical world that if you aim for 10,000 steps a day, then that should be enough. But this is debatable because the evidence behind it is poor. But if you try and get that 10, if you do in terms of walking, if you get your minutes in, that 150 of brisk walking a week, that's fine. But it might be worth just having some form of equipment in the house, because it rains a lot in Manchester if you're from Manchester, just to mix it up a little bit. if you can recommend a medicinal food book which you can use for natural healing for illnesses. Yeah, so if you just take a look at the first talk that I gave on, there's a book list on food books. If you take a look at that, inshallah, that should be of benefit for you. What is the best exercise for help with blockage of arteries? 55 to 60%. But then I'd love to give you medical advice. I'd need to take a look at you and check your blood pressure and pulse and all that. Yeah, I really can't give. I have to keep it generic. But what's really important is a good question. What's really important is maybe having a discussion with your GP to look at your cardiovascular status and taking it from there, inshallah. Badr, honestly, I'm more than happy for you to get in touch, but I can't give any personal advice. Is that okay, Mohammed Rafiq?
Yes, brother. Are there any further questions from anybody? Looks like no,
Yeah,
because
maybe this PowerPoint presentation, if people wanted to see that, whether they can have access to it or.
So, right, Nasser, is it going to be on any of your feeds, like the Facebook page or YouTube or anything? Because I understand this is recorded.
Yes.
the presentation could be possibly shared with the community WhatsApp group. We will not put it on the Facebook, but since it's recorded, it will be on the WhatsApp Facebook page as well.
Yeah, I guess if it's recorded and it's uploaded on the YouTube, they'll be able to see all the slides anyway. So it's just that some people, they want a bit more information. Maybe they want to get in contact with Dr. Goga as well.
Yeah. So that's fine. Maybe the best way of getting in contact with me would be my, I suppose, mobile, because I'm not on Facebook or Twitter or anything like that. But just remember, if you do want to contact me, it'd be really difficult for me to give you some, really personalized advice. I'm more than happy to help, but it'll be very, very generic without seeing your medical notes and stuff like that. There's no problem.
Okay. Jazakallah for a very excellent presentation. And inshallah, those people who are watching it on Facebook, I don't know whether there were any questions from the Facebook audience as well, but alhamdulillah, we people who missed it will get an opportunity to see on the YouTube as well. So thank you very much, and thank you everyone for joining us.
Jazakallah khair to 3Meme for hosting it. I think it's excellent what 3Meme are doing. Just remember the last one, and inshallah, I hope 3Meme can somehow facilitate this. The last one is just as important as diet as exercise seminars on mental health. It'd be great if this could be hosted to close off all three seminars, because it's something that really impacts our communities, and it has a direct impact on your physical and on your physical state, and also your spiritual state. So inshallah, I hope we can do the third and last seminar sometime soon.
Definitely. Just recently, we've sent out a survey, a questionnaire for the community to fill in and to give us some kind of feedback. And there's a number of people who have said that there should be something on this mental health issue. So that'd be great. So far, you've given 2 or 3 talks so far, haven't you? I believe.
So I've done with you guys. The first one was diet, and then this is the second one. So then the third one will be mental health. So usually when I do these talks at massages or the online streams, it's usually all three: diet, exercise, and mental health, because we can't detach mental health from well-being. It cannot be separated at all. And the second thing is that there's such a big stigma in our community. It needs to be discussed openly, and ultra adult conversations, and it's really important to incorporate all three if you want to have well-being, basically. So it'd be great if we could at some point soon.
Yes, definitely. I think because we have one talk a month with this health and well-being, so inshallah, I think in July at some point when it's good for you, inshallah we can host that as well. That'd be great.
Inshallah, yeah, no problem. Who knows, by then they might have lifted some
Maybe.
more lockdown. Inshallah, we'll see.
Inshallah.
Okay, Jazakallah khair. I appreciate your time, everybody. Jazakallah khair. Alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.
Recording will be on our YouTube channel shortly.